I'm doing right now.
That was going to be my next thing.
Yeah.
Timer.
And I'm starting the recording now. Okay, now we are recording. And I'm going into the Remarkist app where I'm going to start that little timer that I mentioned a moment ago. The name of this episode is called Application Anxiety, episode 3. And just like always, we are going to all press our play buttons at the same time on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
The Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
That is so my era.
Same.
That clown pillow can just leave now. Frightening.
I've searched for that clown pillow to buy, and I can't find it anywhere. So if anybody ever sees it, send me a message because I will totally buy it.
So that's not a John Wayne Gacy thing. It's a totally different thing. Like it's just a random clown.
Looks pretty John Wayne Gacy to me.
It is actually, I've done research on that clown pillow. It's like some artist pillow. So it's not related to Gacy.
It is a creepy looking clown, though. We can agree with that.
Yes, we can.
When I worked at an antique mall in my small little town in Ohio, and when I was 16, and we had actual John Wayne Gacy paintings in one of the booths, and I was always like, how did those get there? And I don't know, they were expensive. I don't know if they ever sold.
My daughter would have bought one. So.
Do we watch the intro as well? Or skip it?
We watch it.
All right. Okay, cool. Just finish the intro.
So this is where we really kind of begin the arc of the season in regards to getting into Harvard.
So Birdie's name.
Hey, hey, hey.
Speaks to Brian.
Can we say that possibly you could argue that this is actually the introduction to the band?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We didn't prepare for it.
The twinkle in her eye.
Someone told me that was Sylvia Plath story when I was like 13. Traumatized me.
So she already knows how to play the drums.
She's obviously been learning fast.
A whole
That's what
summer
she's been
has
doing all
passed
summer.
since she, yeah, I was gonna say a whole summer's passed.
Somebody could do a fan fiction that takes place in those summer months. That is that sort of that Sophie Lane like hero's journey arc that I mentioned.
Get on it, John.
He's looking quite a bit older this season. Like, not old, just like he's 20 something.
I think it's the haircut.
Also,
Or
he's grown
style
up.
different.
He's just grown up. Does the bus just wait for her? My bus will not wait for me if I'm sitting across the street. Rory, of course it waits for her.
Oh, Taylor's up.
Oh, Taylor, yeah.
What is Taylor up to?
Being annoying.
Taylor.
It's always something he's up to.
They mentioned Charlie Rose a lot in the series. Has anybody ever done a count?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Rose, do you have something to say? I saw you flashing.
Oh, the flashing is me agreeing to everything that has been said. Amy Sherman Palladino. Seems
Hey,
to
John, live
be-
stream disappeared, and if you didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, it's just going back and forth. It's the internet is just unfortunately just not working for Instagram Live.
Gotcha.
Ooh.
Her face.
Of course, she has practice essays.
12.
That printing thing really bugs me. I mean, what if it's a math person that has messy handwriting? Not to generalize, of course.
Lorelai's blouse looks like one of the Facebook backgrounds that you could create for a text.
For sure.
Oh my gosh.
And that couch.
That's fantastic.
I can stop looking at those necklaces.
Lorelai or Emily's?
Both. I mean, they're like, it's so detailed. Like you can see the personality. Like one wears a big chunky one, another one is just. I think back in this era, that was quite the most short necklace.
That's some fast talking.
And that's even faster.
Man, that was fast.
Eliza is just amazing.
Liza is real good at that speed.
Laura's Eliza's necklace is a bit weird.
Looks like just like two dangling from the center. It's pretty.
I think she just meant that hers looks like, you know, the eras. So the mom had a big chunky one and she's got like this nice tiny one.
I'm so used to the way they talk now. If you watch the pilot, it's like the slowest script ever.
The whole first season is super slow.
Right.
This season's faster than last season.
Yeah.
John, maybe this is you calling her. Your character.
Oh, that's a really good theory.
Parents though, doesn't he?
So I wonder if Dave is introed in this episode. I have no idea.
I can't actually remember, so.
His
Name is
in voice
No
only.
spoilers.
Not
No spoilers. That was just me talking to the wind.
We don't speak when he says things like that.
everything in the kitchen is like so instant, right? Pop-Tarts and cereal.
Gosh, I want one of those donuts. Sherry, let's grab one of those donuts.
Yes, please. It's National Donut Day, everyone.
Today?
Yup.
I missed it. Oh my! I must celebrate.
I think Monday
Oh,
is
it's-
National Ice Cream Day. It's either this Monday or next Monday.
I thought Friday was National Donut Day.
No, I had something earlier this morning say it was today.
Oh, interesting.
Why not make it every day?
Thomas and his contractor guard. Now I remember what Taylor was doing.
That kid's almost 30 years old now.
We say that line a lot about making the fries extra crispy.
It's so funny that Taylor's sending kids and then Kirk.
I know.
Checks.
Wait, I think I had the wrong episode in my head.
You do.
Dang it. I was half listening because I didn't want the volume too loud.
Lots of name brands right behind him. Bazooka.
The one behind Taylor?
Yeah, the name brands in the store. John didn't think that they had name brands originally in the store.
We got to get to that scene. If there are name brands all over that scene, then I'm going to believe this theory that like we're living in that like alternate universes collided and we got mixed into another alternate universe where brands do exist. Do you know about this theory?
There's Bazooka and Push Pop right there.
I
Oh
think
my
they're
God.
alone in that.
And
theory.
Planters.
It's one of those things where people remember things differently than they actually are, like the names of different books and like the Berenstain Bears.
The Mandela effect.
Yeah, the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Mandela effect, yes.
In college, I did a paper on product placement, so I always noticed that stuff in movies and TV.
Oh, I forgot about this part.
Oh, wow. This is an episode.
I love what's coming up.
All I'll say is at the end, I'd like to discuss why they don't think to ask Richard for help with this.
Richard's not from Harvard.
He's out of town.
Yeah, one, he's out of town, but two, he's Yale.
I know, but it's the same, like, tips, tricks. It's, doing the whole Ivy League thing.
Yeah, but I think that they wouldn't want to talk to him about it because then they would have to mention Harvard.
Yeah, he would probably just steer them towards Yale.
Can you still star 69? Does that still exist?
I thought that too. Oh, you can. I do it for work sometimes.
Whoa! I was right.
There he is.
Yay! So did they like record that in like a booth and they just like play it during the scene?
Yeah, that would have been recorded in post production sound.
Her impression of Rory.
Stages.
It always makes me laugh, her impression.
Danny
He sounded
Gans. Danny
nothing
Gans.
like Rory.
Is Danny Gans still in Vegas?
No idea.
Does anyone know who Danny Gans is? Oh my goodness, that's funny.
What'd you say, John?
Danny Gans.
My husband said he knows who he is, but I have no clue.
He's the singer.
He was a big like show in Vegas around the early aughts, like late 90s, early aughts. He was a huge show, like one of the biggest shows in Vegas.
He died.
And I mean, that's something you'd know probably living on the West Coast because, folks go to Vegas a lot.
Yeah, he died in May 1st, 2009.
But he did lots of like impressions. That was his kind of big thing.
His face looks familiar.
This guy's voice, he sounds like he would have done like documentaries or some sort of like voice intro.
Yes, for sure.
She looks a lot like Emily.
Oh, I thought that too.
It's like the perfect family.
But nicer,
Yes.
Friendly version.
this whole scene's weird.
Happy version.
A nicer couch, but still the same. That pillow on the couch.
This is the character. This is the character. It wasn't a yacht. It was this.
You're gonna have to explain that later, don't?
Yes, please.
Yeah, what?
Manticore, role I auditioned.
Oh, are you auditioned for his role?
Correct.
Oh, you got a much better role.
Oh,
Oh,
much
wow.
better and much longer lasting role. Yeah, this guy's such a, like, I'm pretty sure we only see him in like 2 things.
These siblings give me a creepy vibe.
Oh yeah.
This whole thing is creepy.
I don't know why I thought it was on a yacht, but I've been talking about it. I'm surprised that you guys don't remember. I feel like I've mentioned it a few times in the room.
I don't think any of us knew
that I
that.
auditioned for another role.
I don't think
And-
you mentioned that. I don't remember that.
I don't either.
So yeah,
This sounds like a good trivia question.
It sure does, Mandy. You listening? I know you're not up on the couch, but
there is somebody in this room who has heard this story.
it's gonna be hard to find one, John. I don't think any of us have.
Beanbags, we'll talk about this afterwards, but there's got to be somebody out there that's heard the story.
She definitely has Emily here.
This is like the alternate universe, right? Just,
Man, why did I think that this was on a yacht?
They still match.
Okay.
Same type of feeling, country club type people, John.
Yeah. Maybe in an alternate universe it was on a yacht.
And there were no brands.
There may have something to do with a yacht. No, never mind.
John, Mary said
No
that
spoilers.
she has heard the story. It may have been very early on in club meetings, and we told him we don't know what yacht he was talking about.
Why is he wearing blue and not red? Isn't Harvard maroon colors?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like the Harvard family, and they're dressed in
Yeah, Harvard Crimson.
now I'm hungry for chicken. Just laughing at the we love the candy.
I love Lorelai's look to Rory.
Manticore is the answer to a question here.
The fact that you remember that.
Right here.
The Manticore.
Manticore!
I know that because of Grimm.
I will now have that song in my head for the rest of the night.
I don't like how they
Me
present
too.
her here, just because she, didn't go to college and stuff. I thought she should get at least one right, because Rory looked kind of embarrassed or sad that they were giving her these questions.
That was a funny scene.
So creepy.
I really wanted to.
Oh, here, this is
It gets
something
better.
to watch.
Now, there's another sibling is like Lorelai in a way, right?
From a campus.
Right. Not something that's clean. Something in the hamper.
Whatever happened to that miniature, John? It looks like a dollhouse.
Say again?
I said, whatever happened to that miniature? You know how I am about dollhouses.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a question. Maybe Valerie could answer that question. It's somewhere. I doubt that they destroyed it.
It's amazing.
Look, he agreed so that Lorelai could have ice cream. I know.
It's like, so the soda shop is a season 3 thing? I mean, that, wow, man, my memory was good. My memory is not what I thought it was.
And Kirk was already asking about management positions.
Whoa.
Look.
Hey.
Hey!
Hey, hello.
I love him, and I love his
I
character.
love him. Oh my
I
God.
love him from the OC. Oh.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's the best.
So cute.
Great little meet cute.
Only the 90s that you hear the word snogging.
I have never seen that old woman that just came into that meeting before. I've never seen even though
Wait, they must have had an old lady tour because then there's the old lady there was 2 old ladies sitting at the front of the room too.
they do stick out. Maybe it's Kirk's mom. I don't know.
Oh.
She always quotes M4.
Did you ask who she is?
Oh no, I'm just saying that she always quotes M4.
That's her role model, who she wants to be.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised that that's not what she's gonna write in her essay, that she said Hillary Clinton instead.
Thanks.
Oh, good point. Or what? I wonder when the whole Harvard dream started, too. Like, what triggered that?
Maybe it was Lorelai's dream to go there, and because she didn't, she kind of like led Rory there.
What is this little cake and coffee cart? What?
It's like a pop-up, isn't it?
You think she would have gone there if she hadn't gotten pregnant? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe Taylor was bribing them that night, that coffee cart.
Could be.
He wants to put him in Lorelai's house.
They don't have a spare bedroom?
No, they have babies in them.
Not yet, they don't.
Will be.
I know they're close friends, but like, isn't it weird to be like, hey, can I throw my tools in your daughter's old room?
I'd be like, no.
Why didn't they
Like,
have that
walk around
garage
and
they
look at
don't
them?
use? Maybe he could have got the garage before somebody else borrowed the garage.
Too precious for a garage.
Wow. So how much more of Chilton is there this season? I thought that I assumed that the whole season was Chilton.
It is.
Yeah, I
No.
think she graduates like season 4, episode 1 or something. I can't remember.
No, that's not right, Lily.
She graduates at the end of
No.
the season.
The last episode.
Yeah.
Really?
It's
the finale of the
fun night.
Oh, you're right. Oh,
He's not
boy.
in the admissions office. He doesn't work there, right?
I have a theory. I have a theory that the finale is going to be her graduation.
Don't read the descriptions, John, if you don't want to be spoiled.
I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say, I'm
I
pretty
just
sure
heard somebody say it.
just said it too.
Oops.
Oh, the troubadour. I miss him.
Troubadour.
Troubadour. Seen him in a while.
Yeah, we need more of him.
Love Grant.
I feel like this is the most cars we have seen on the street like that.
Busy.
All right.
All right.
So we are going to open up the couch now and let everyone who would like to join us hop up here for a little lively post-show discussion. Hopefully we can match the liveliness of yesterday's discussion. We can only hope.
I am so frustrating.
Wait, John, did you want to touch on anything from yesterday's episode that we didn't, like this Emily situation or Kirk asking Lorelai out?
Oh, Kirk Lorelai
only
out.
if we can keep it to because I'd like to talk about this episode, and I don't want to have.
Well, maybe then you just like
monopolize
give
it.
your little like thoughts on, because I know you said you wanted to talk about some stuff. So maybe you like just say like what you wanted to say.
Can
and
I
we
just
start going
interject
into this episode.
one thing before you start, John?
Yeah.
Remember my prediction that you were going to complain about internet issues on your episode? I
Oh my
think you're
goodness.
laying the groundwork tonight.
I know, right?
Jinx him.
I'm so sorry.
Jinx
I
him.
really am like, I just gotta, actually Babsy was like, you have to deal with this router. I was like, I know, it will take me so long. She's like, it's gonna always take long. You gotta sit down and figure it
You
out.
can't jinx him on an internet for tomorrow's episode.
No, I mean, what you're saying, Mary, is that like, I gotta actually get cracking on figuring this
Oh,
out.
yeah. I'm just saying that, I predicted you're going to tell us you have internet issues on your episode.
I know.
So let's see what happens.
No,
Sorry, John.
And
no,
I'm
no.
counteracting that.
Don't set it up.
You're right.
bad.
I gotta do it. It's just, I don't know if you've heard what I was saying, that like the router that I have is a smart router, and it's hooked up to like every light in our house. And so if that thing is dying, the thought of the
lights will
amount
go out.
of time, just the thought of me reprogramming every single light is just, it's just a little much right now. But I think I probably have to do it. Although I will say I restarted the phone that the Instagram Live was on, and it really worked well. So it's possible that it wasn't the internet. Maybe it was the phone. Like ever since it's been totally smooth. Everything on Instagram Live's fine, and the episode played fine. So anyway, yesterday's
All right, let's
episode.
give you 3 minutes on
Yesterday's
yesterday.
episode. There's two things that I'll say. But my perspective, first of all, like always, I just had time to simmer on a lot of it. So I also have a slightly different perspective on the whole Christopher thing, because I thought a lot about it. While he's still not garbage to me or trash. He's no basura.
Yes, he is. Let's not even play here. Let's not even play.
He's still no basura to me. He's still not, but I thought a little bit more about just sort of just a little bit more about the barging in, and a little bit more about Rory's situation, like just sort of Rory's feeling. And I was sort of defending his behavior, not really defending him, but sort of giving him a little bit of a pass because of how hurt he was. And then I was actually on in the Bag Boy groups, and some folks were talking about it, and I can't remember, I think it was T that gave a really interesting, which will also kind of tie into the other thing I want to talk about, which was Emily, this perspective that like kind of everybody is sort of like when they behave like that, it kind of is all coming out of a place of like insecurity and fear. And so I guess like I was feeling like that was a really harsh thing for Rory to have done or said to him, but I wasn't really considering how she was feeling in that moment, even though I think it was just as much a fumble as his behavior was. I was sort of ready to give his behavior a little bit more of a pass. And I think that's probably just because it's easier for me to put myself into his shoes than it is for me to put myself into Rory's shoes. And so that's just cool. I mean, it's like, that's sort of, I think that's one of the really cool things about the community, is that we keep chatting about this after, and that the channels of communication aren't just here in these rooms, like they exist, across other social platforms, and we can get perspective and continue dialogue about it. So I'm eager to see where that character goes. I'm not yet ready to say that this character is just awful. I know that a lot of people think that he is, and I wonder if that's because there's something left to come in the series that like doesn't. I mean, I don't know. It's very possible that something really big happens that is so influential to how you feel about him watching it now in subsequent watches. But as of right now, I just see him making stupid mistakes that you make when you're in love and you're confused and you're scared, mistakes that I've made. So I, obviously, like, I don't want to think that I'm trash. So I have
John, no.
Oh, no,
thinking that he is trash, right?
I think you're trash.
So
I don't think we're not projecting.
no.
onto you.
I don't think that you think that. I'm just saying, like, that, just to give you the thought process of like how it is. It's very easy for us to put ourselves into these characters, to get into their shoes. This is a show with two female protagonists, and so I'm often asked, or always asked really, as a male viewer to get into their shoes and see through their eyes. But as a male, it's easier for me to get into somebody like Christopher's eyes, but he's not the protagonist. And so because he's not the protagonist, the script's not designed for us to ever root for him. That's just the reality of how narrative works, when because everyone feels like, or like most people, I sense that the fandom understands that Lorelai has a lot of problems, that she's got communication issues and commitment issues and all of these things. But because she's the protagonist, we root for her to get better. And I guess it's easier for me to root for a character like Chris to get better, because I can see through his eyes a little bit better, because I understand his perspective. But he's not the protagonist, and so I think that's where some of that kind of that's where it makes it sort of difficult.
That's fair.
But this also goes into the Emily thing, because I actually, I also had some perspective, because yesterday I was really ugh, I was really upset about Emily's behavior, really upset, with the exception of, I thought it was pretty cool when she threw Christopher out. That was super solid and super unexpected, and it was designed to be kind of a heroic moment for her. But everything.
Stick with your feelings.
What's that?
Stick with.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Yes,
thinking about this, and I was thinking,
Hey.
Mary is gonna love how upset I am with Emily. But then, this post that I was on with T, and just T really broke it down, and it and I was like, everything that I was using as defense for Christopher, it completely applies to Emily. It absolutely applies to Emily, because it's true. This was really important to her, and she really, is it right? I don't, is Christopher's behavior right? No, but I think that we can relate to wanting something very badly and fearing its loss, and how that makes us do stupid things sometimes. And so that's how I felt about her. I'm sorry, I'm actually monopolizing the chat right now, and that's something that I said that I was not.
Can I just say something before we go into the episode? Thank you. So I think and this is just a general opinion and kind of outlook on the whole series. I think there's going to be times during the series, and I'll even do this, and it'll shock all of you, as we get deeper into the series, that you'll love a character so much, and I can't say too much on a certain person, but we'll love someone so much in a number of episodes or an entire season, and then something will happen, and obviously this happened to John, and then you'll be like, oh, they're horrible, how can I forgive them? And then it'll happen with a lot of the characters throughout the series, and I think that's very telling, to where it's that's just how humans are. It's you love them in 1 minute, and you think they're quote unquote trash or they're horrible the next, and it's kind of this up and down roller coaster of okay, so who's gonna betray me this time? And it's kind of real life, because people do that too, because as much as we love our family does stupid things, and we say oh, you're horrible, we're never going to speak again, but it's your family, and you kind of have no choice, unless there are certain circumstances where it's you're going to talk at some point, and you're going to hate each other and love each other at different times in your life, but at the end of the day, you love them. And so I think this show is a great example of that, and we're going to love and hate each of the characters as they come and go, and as they do things. So
that's just expert writing, good writing always does that, especially when you talk about serialized storytelling. The best shows have you going back and forth about how you feel about a character, and convinced that you absolutely can't stand a particular character, and then a really good writer works to completely subvert that feeling. And just, I mean, it's just testament to how well written the show is, how much it holds up after 20 years, you know, and it's really, really great. The other thing that I wanted to say just very briefly about yesterday's episode was I wasn't crazy about how Lorelai let Kirk down.
You didn't like the reason
No.
she gave him?
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't. No, I thought like just tell him the truth. You know, like.
But it was kind of the truth.
Not
She did
really.
get out of a weird relationship.
I know, but come on. That's not the truth. I mean, like, that's not really the truth. That's not.
You
why.
wanted the more flat out truth that he's not
Yeah.
the type.
Yeah, that's all she had to
She
say.
kind of did,
like,
though.
You're not my type. I really care a lot about you, Kirk. You're a great friend, and
She said, you know, and I like you. You're a friend, and I don't want to ever.
she just
hurt
didn't need. For me, she just didn't need to say I just got out of a relationship. It felt so. It just. And maybe it's okay because that character is so goofball and so, you know, kind of sort of dumb, I guess, like, or not really aware. I hate saying
Remember,
that.
it's
because
Kirk,
He's
it's
a
not.
man-child.
I hate saying that
I
because
think she
obviously
should've given him a
Sean is
chance.
one of the smartest people that I know. So it's weird to even think that he played a dumb character, but the character is kind of dumb. But
I feel like she would have given him a chance. She would have let him on.
Think of it this way, John. You got to be really smart to play a character that way and pull it off for people to really believe you.
Oh yeah. No,
Oh,
of course I
absolutely.
know that. No, of course I know that. But anyway, that was the only small little thing where I was like, when she was doing that, I was like, oh, come on.
But wait,
Like
wait.
just say, it's that easy. Like I don't want to date you. I want us to be friends. Like I don't see you in that way, right? Like that's simple as that, you know?
I'm
Or
not dumb. I think he's just
sure.
socially awkward and quirky. I don't think he's. I think he's pretty smart actually. I don't know. I don't see that he's dumb.
I just see him being very,
Yeah, I agree.
very immature,
Only
mid-wild.
young.
I don't know. I maybe I see it as kind of a little dumb. Some of the things that he says are they, you know, and his or
Maybe
his,
naive.
his understanding of what's going on always seems to be, you know,
He's just not very worldly, John.
I don't know.
Diana's flashing.
Anyway, I love the character, so I certainly don't want it to descend into sounding like I have any.
Remember, he's the youngest.
We're gonna
like
tell
12.
Sean.
Yeah, we're gonna tell
well,
Sean that you.
yeah, I mean, I'll ask him. I'll ask him next time I see him. Were you playing dumb? Like, was that character dumb? Or I'm just going to say, what's your take on it? Do you think he's dumb? Because he'll probably give me a really solid answer because he understands the character really, really well, and then I'll come back to us and I'll say this is what he said, and it's probably spot on.
Diana
All
was like,
I just want to quickly say, I think that admission of her to him, I just got out of a relationship, it's not for him, it's for us. It's like she's taking that moment to have a real honest moment with herself, with the audience, to say, you know what, this has been really hard. And, I just never see that moment as like her talking to Kirk. I think that she's, in a way, showing him that they're really good friends because she's actually like letting her guard down and she's saying the truth. Like she is so sincere in that moment about what's actually happening. If you listen to everything that she says, she said, I just got out of a thing. I'm still confused. Like, and it's real. And so I always read that moment as her speaking her own truth, maybe to herself more than anyone.
Yeah, that's the way that I unknowingly took it, but I can see like.
Can you
John,
refresh me on how it ends though? Does he leave with the very clear sense that it will never be with them, or does he leave sort of feeling like
No,
this,
she's clear. She tells him.
She's clear, like no, like this is like you and I, not at
He
all.
asked her,
Ever.
is there
Yeah,
any
he
chance
asked.
you will change your mind later? She's like,
Okay.
no.
Okay, got it. Okay, well then there you go. Then I'm wrong.
so on that note, John,
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna Do you want to talk about tonight's episode? Or you
Yes,
want to talk about
I
yesterday?
do want to talk about tonight's episode. I want to talk about Manticore scene. because first of all, and I know you guys are going to be like, yeah, right, because like my memory seems to be just completely. I really believe sometimes that this was all in an alternate reality that has clashed with ours, and no, that audition for that, the character says the line Manticore, like absolutely, positively. I remember saying that line, like actually saying the word Manticore, because I remember the way that I articulated it, and I remember Dan kind of giggling on that. But so they must have rewritten it in some way, or switched around who was going to say what and what questions were going to come at what point. And some of those other ones that some of the lines that he does say, I don't remember saying those at all. But again, my memory, maybe it did happen and I just don't remember it. But what I will say though, is that I really wanted that role. Isn't that crazy? Like I really was super bummed when I didn't get that role. And here's something that's really interesting is I didn't know it was the episode right before the episode that I was going to be in, which means that I auditioned for this role only, maybe a week or two at the very latest, a week or two before, because then I had to have auditioned for Brian shortly after. And what I was told was that the reason why I went in to audition for Brian was because of my audition for this one. So I had left an impression on Dan, and he wanted to see me in for the role of Brian. But when I got the script for the role of Brian, I could be wrong again. My memory is that there was like practically no lines in this first episode for Brian. Like he has like one line, and I remember being disappointed. That I really, it was that other one, bigger scene. It was more featured and had more lines, and I was going in for this like small, like sort of side thing that kind of was more in the background and was probably never going to be seen on an episode again.
So when you
auditioned,
you thought it was just
there.
the one episode?
Yeah, I thought it was just the one episode. And
had you tried out for any other roles
on the show?
Yeah, other than like Manticore guy and Brian, had you tried out for anything else?
No, I
Sorry, I don't know what else to call him other than Manticore guy.
That was great. I love it. Jack.
Creepy man.
I thought that I had auditioned for a couple, but I think that it was just that guy. And I really didn't realize until this episode that it was an audition that I must have done within like a week or two of Brian. It couldn't have been any longer because Brian's the next episode, right? So, and they shoot in 8-day cycles. So, however, we're pretty early in the season, which means that I may have auditioned before the actual season began, because the 8-day thing that sort of becomes a bigger part of it once the actual show is on the air. Then there's like this like clockwork, gears moving. You've got writers writing and producers producing and post-production people doing all of that. But there is a small window before the actual series airs, right after they've finished writing, the first several scripts, where they have a little bit of air to start like casting and getting people and whatnot. So it's very possible that it wasn't like, I auditioned for this and then a week later I auditioned for Brian. It may have been a few weeks, but it had to have still been pretty close. And as I said, like I remember Mara Casey telling me that Dan, who was the only one in my audition with Manticore guy, that he specifically asked her, like, hey, bring the Manticore guy back in, and I thought that's what she said, that bring the Manticore guy in, because my memory of it was that he thought that my pronunciation of Manticore just sounded funny.
So I want to let you know
thank
Mary was
goodness you weren't
flashing.
Manticore guy, otherwise we would not be here right now.
Almost
Something
definitely not.
bigger in
Almost
store for
almost
you,
definitely.
John. Trust
And
the
then
process.
isn't it true, John, that you met Mara at one of Sean's parties?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to clarify that. I met Mara at my party. So,
Yes, sorry, I did know that. I apologize.
oh, you did? Because I always say at a party. I never really clarify that, just because it's just I think it's just a little faster when I tell the story. But it was a party that I want to. So now I'm trying to like kind of piece together when it would have happened, because my memory of it was that it was like either a Thanksgiving or a Christmas party, and that like it was kind of one of those like orphans parties where like a bunch of people in a city who like can't fly home to their families all just kind of like go to somebody's house, and it was my house, my apartment at the time, that we had like this little party, and that's where I met her. And she came because she was also sort of not going home to her family, and Sean was like, hey, my friend Mara, who is the casting director on the show, she's alone for the holidays as well, like wondering if I can invite her. And I was like, absolutely. Of course, probably thinking like, yeah, please. Because obviously like the city is all about who you know. And it was at that party that she and I met. We chatted. I'm guessing that it was actually a year before all of this, because she then, based on that meeting, like she was like, oh, I'm gonna find you something on Gilmore Girls. Like, I just think that you'd be great on the show. And I was like, oh wow, that's really exciting. But then she, after that, came to see me in a play that I was in the city, and it was after seeing me in that play that she then brought me in to audition. So that tells me that I met her in the winter, like Christmas-y of 2001 to 2002, right? So now we're in the early fall, late summer of 2002, which is when I would have auditioned for this role. So the amount of time that passed between me meeting Mara was probably like about 9 months, in which time she came to see me in a play.
Did you invite her to the play, or you think that she came as like kind of a pre-audition?
I'm pretty sure that I invited her to the play. She is a theater person. She like is a real like she's from Chicago as well, and she so she was kind of connected to a lot of Chicago folks, and in LA we're pretty tight. Like there's a lot of us who kind of sort of still fraternize, and Chicago is just a big theater town. Like Chicago's super proud of its theater. And so this was a play. This was actually a play at the Mark Taper Forum, which is one of the big theaters in the city. And Los Angeles doesn't really have a great theater scene, or it certainly didn't back then. Los Angeles is known for the showcase, right, which is like actors putting on a play really just to get a bunch of agents and casting directors in the room. Sometimes they're not even plays, they're just a bunch of monologues, So it's not really known as a town for really great theater. So if you come from a town like Chicago or New York that has like a great theater scene, you're just hungry for it. And so I was in this play at like one of the most reputable like major national theaters, and so she was excited to come see me in that.
That's a cool story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So what else?
Mary was flashing earlier, but I don't know if it was related to what you were talking about before that.
Mary?
But
I was flashing my appreciation for the fact that they brought you back in. Like,
nice.
little things that change the trajectory of our life.
So here's my question.
Totally.
What do you think of Dave's introduction?
Oh man, I'm gonna have so much more to talk about in tomorrow's episode because I have a memory. I have a memory that might be from an alternate universe. I don't know, of some interesting things that he did during the scene that I'll never forget. And I kind of saw a little bit tonight, you know, in his introduction, you know, sort of the quirky thing that he's doing. It was not my impression of him as a person. Like he you know, he kind of transforms in, you know, in that role. And that's something that that just like seeing it on camera really lands on me, where it didn't really land on me there. He and I had a pretty good relationship. I mean, you know, he was one of like 2 or 3 people that I spent a lot of time with while on set, as I mentioned, you know, in the chat with Mary. Like when you shooting a television show is pretty boring at times. You know, I mean, it's like a lot of just sitting around and not doing much and waiting until you can just like go in and perform a little bit. You know, it's like, especially somebody like myself who came from the theater, it was like a really big difference to go from a process as an actor that's like fully immersive, and you're like, you know, the rehearsal process is you know, everyone is in the script and breaking it apart and whatnot. And then, you know, you perform it and you're performing nonstop for like 2 hours, and to a process where, you know, you're focusing on like subtleties of what your face is doing because it's the only thing that's actually on the camera, and you don't have to worry about any of the other things. You're waiting for like, you know, hours just to walk into a big area that's completely like looks nothing like the set that it will look like on television. Anyway, so but he and I, you know, and Todd, like, you know, we spent a lot of time in each other's trailers just chatting, and he's a really lovely guy. He's a really, 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 really nice guy. And I'd kind of hoped, you know, this is sort of weird that I'm saying this, you know, but like, I was really developing a friendship with him. I felt like I was really developing a friendship with him, and then he left the show, and you know, that sort of dissolved, which was, you know, I'll admit it. It was kind of a bit of a bummer. I remember feeling kind of bummed about it. But he was a real like voracious reader. He always had a book on set, and he was a much cooler, more grounded guy than the character that at least I saw on tonight's episode. And I heard that the character that he plays on the OC is also like a real kind of weird, quirky type guy, which was just so weird for me to think, because just who I remember him to be wasn't that, you know. I remember him to be just like much more just like a grounded, normal dude. But of course, you know, I also was like a way nerdier on the show, I think, than I am in real life. I think. I don't know. Maybe you guys don't agree. Maybe you think I'm just as weird as Brian was. But anyway.
Brian was sorry,
cool.
John. There's a couple of new people on today, and I just saw Caitlin's down in the audience, and she just posted on the Facebook group that she's not sure about how to get up onto the couch. And I see quite a few new faces, so I'm wondering if you
Caitlin, come on up.
Explain to people how they can come up.
Okay, yeah. So it is very, Caitlin, I just sent you an invite to come hop up on the stage with us and chat. It's actually pretty simple. There's a little hand. Hey, Caitlin. There's a little hand down at the bottom, not the one that's like with the little fingers sticking up. That's the one that will make you leave the room. But there's a little hand that like allows you to request. It's just you're raising your hand. Can I come up on stage? And if I see that, then I will bring you up by just clicking on their avatar, but I don't really know to do that unless you want to come up on stage. So I don't typically do that, but I just did that for Caitlin because it seemed like she wanted to get up there.
Thank you. This is the first time actually using that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Caitlin.
So yesterday I had a big speech about how I want to sort of try not to to have people be sensitive to like monopolizing and talking for way too long. I just talked for probably about 10 minutes.
We enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. It was great.
I know, but what I really want to hear what you all said, you know, and I want to kind of get your perspective on it. That's part of for me, it's part of the joy of this whole project.
There's some seriously fast talking. This is your first time here. Did you have some thoughts on the episode? Caitlin, she meant you. If you were.
Caitlin, did you have any thoughts on the episode? Just
Caitlin
since you're
or
new.
Rose.
I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed Chun's. I didn't know that he had actually gone or was going to be the one character or auditioned to be the one character. But I don't know, what's everyone else's thoughts?
I love the Harvard family scene because I feel like it's Amy and Daniel's like having a lot of fun with their stereotypes about like Ivy League people and what they're like. And it's so, I've watched it a million times and it's just so fun. Everything about that whole scene is just really, really fun. So I can see, John, why you wanted that character actually.
I mean, it was just a quirky, funny scene. And I remember Dan laughing throughout. So that's also another part of it. Like you usually walk out of an audition feeling like, that was great. I got it, you know? And it's usually because of the reaction in the room. So then when I found out I didn't get it, I was like, you know, you just get in your head, like, what's wrong with me? Like, like what did I do wrong?
Tasha, Shauna, and Rose are flashing.
I was like tapping in agreement. Yeah. Someone mentioned me right earlier.
I was just saying, since it's your first time, Rose, if you wanted to chat about yourself.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you came back.
Yeah, I'm from the other
we're
side
really
of the
glad
world.
to see you come back.
Yeah, I'm happy to just, nerd around Gilmore Girls. I've been watching that since the pandemic starts, like last year. So that has been in my loop. So for this particular episode, I don't know. I mean, one thing about Gilmore Girls, I love that, the feeling that you met someone, the love at first sight. But this is more like, between Dave, is it Dave, the character that Adam Brody is playing, with Lane. It's like meeting someone that has the same interest as yours, right? I mean, that's like, me being here with a group of people from the other side of the world who's into Gilmore Girls. I just love that part. I mean, that's the one thing that I love about Gilmore Girls is that feeling, right? That warm and fuzzy feeling that you have, during your childhood, meeting your first crush, and etc. So yeah, that's just my thought. Thank you.
Oh, that was adorable. I love that.
Tasha.
I just want to say that I was totally frustrated because my Netflix was just absolutely going stupid. It would actually go, the voices would like, and then it would like completely stop. And I could not keep up with nothing. Sorry, that's where I'm at.
Tasha?
Thank you. Or I lose my train of thought completely. Okay. Well, where can I start before I lose my train of thought completely?
Well, write it down. You can write it down on a piece of paper.
No.
Then you won't forget it.
No, that seems weird. To me.
People do that.
Me. Hey, I said to me. I'm not insulting anybody. So with the whole like Lane and Dave thing, see, like I've been a fan of Adam Brody since like the very beginning, and there was something that he was in before even Gilmore Girls, and I cannot put my finger on it. At least I think it was. But like it makes a lot of sense, like as I like grown up and stuff like that, because I watched him from like Gilmore Girls and then into the OC and then into like everything else that he's done throughout the years and even into now. I have always had like a soft spot for Dave because I mean, I can't say too much, but like he's just like an all around like great character, and Adam Brody himself, like obviously I don't know him like John does or anything like that, but he just like has that like aura about him that he's just like, you can't like get mad at him, and like we'll find out like why later on in the season, but because like I also like what you said, John, about how like even on the OC he plays that kind of like nerdy type thing. And I've always said that like when I just sometimes like when I describe like a person or something like that, like a guy that I'm like that I fancy or something like that, it's like I always go back to like he's the Adam Brody, Seth Cohen.
Agreed.
Kind of cute, and because like let me just say this, and I'll say this once. Adam Brody himself, he's gorgeous, and he always has been. And it's not usually to other people the type that I go for. And so, like, I have always loved him as, like, that type of person where he's, like, that nerdy type person, but you love him. So, like, I love that little interaction that, like, Lane and Dave have when, like, he asks her, like, do you want to go listen to it? And he's, like, already smitten. And you can definitely tell from the start. And then, like, I don't know if anybody caught it, but, like, when Lane was walking off, like he kind of like watched her leave, and like his facial expression very briefly, he's like, oh no,
Yes.
I'm gonna like this girl, and it's not just because a music thing either. And the next part, I'm gonna keep it very brief, but the whole Harvard family, the parents were fine. I've always said this every single time I watch it, and it has not changed for me. Siblings creep me out to no end. Kind of like what Lorelai was saying, like, ew. And I'm like, yeah, ew. Because, like, no one's, like, that friendly with their siblings. Thank you. And it just, like, the sister just rubbed me the wrong way. Carol, she's cool. I've always loved Carol. But, yeah.
Rachel.
Yeah, the siblings, they always make me laugh even though they're so creepy. The oldest daughter, though, I think it's interesting that they decide to include her, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, what is the purpose of that daughter? I guess is it because Rory, and I said this during the episode, like, when does Rory decide she wants to go to an Ivy League school, and you know the conveyor belt trying to plant that seed, and I don't think Lorelai did put her on a conveyor belt, but how does like I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they are not thinking about Ivy League schools, but doesn't mean it can't happen. But I just like that they added that older sister too, to kind of.
I think Carol's like a nod to Lorelai because she kind of didn't do what her parents always wanted her to do, and so I think like Carol's kind of a subtle nod to Lorelai and how like Lorelai probably lived her life after like having Rory and stuff like that and things like that. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think Rose said that during the show. Rachel, were you done?
Yeah, but I don't think I would have gone to, I mean, who knows what she would have done if she hadn't gotten pregnant, but I don't think she would have gone to Yale like her parents probably wanted her to. I think she probably would have done something else, maybe go to business school. I don't know. But I don't, but yeah, I could see her being a nod to Lorelai, but I don't know what would have happened to Lorelai.
By the way, Tasha, I think you were talking about Freaks and Geeks with Adam Brody was in that.
Thank you. I knew I wasn't going crazy.
So, like, are we supposed to assume that had Lorelai not had Rory, had her life not gone in that direction, that she would have been as academic a person as you would need?
She was very, very smart. She was at the top of her class. They said it.
Yeah, no, I heard that. It's just people who are really smart. There's like a difference between really smart and like really like academic
Gifted.
and book and sort of book smart. Like Rory is really book smart as well as being very smart, which is important because Harvard likes that kind of stuff. Now everybody, we've heard Richard and whatnot say like Lorelai, you were like the best of your class and all of this kind of stuff. But then, in the context of today, whenever Rory is like going like full academia on Lorelai just seems completely like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so that Lorelai could never get into Harvard. No way. And so is that what we're supposed to assume, is that had she not had that she would have become the type of person to have all of the things necessary to go to an Ivy League school, or that she wouldn't have needed to because Richard could have helped her get in there. But again, he wouldn't have been able to get her into Harvard. He would have been able to get her into maybe Yale. So that's just one little thing I think that I have a hard time reconciling that.
At some point, Lorelai says, when she's explaining to Rory why she's such a disappointment, at some point she says to her the plan was to go to Sarah Lawrence.
I think our Vassar too was listed.
Or Vassar,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she does
Sarah
talk
Lawrence or
about
Vassar, like I think she said both of the same thing. So I think she that was like, she was an academic and she was planning to do something like an Ivy League school in her right.
If you were an academic, not like you could be an academic at one time and then you just lose it. Like, an academic, typically they have academic knowledge, and as Rory has. I don't imagine that anything could really happen in Rory's life where she would forget all of the stuff she's getting out of the books that she's reading. And yet when Lorelai is presented with some of those books, she always kind of makes it sound a little bit like for example tonight, when she's talking about the Russian author, I can't remember the name, but Lorelai makes a joke out of it, which is her way of saying like, it's all Greek to me. I have no idea what any of this, like, that's my daughter, that's not me, right? And so the only thing that I can imagine is that like maybe she would have attained that kind of academic, not just knowledge but interest, which I would imagine you'd probably also need to go to Vassar. I don't know, maybe not. I went to a theater school, so how would I know?
Sorry.
Wait, who was speaking?
You go
Sorry.
right ahead, Regina.
Okay. I just wanted to make a quick mention of this. I think it's interesting that you observed that, John, because I frequent Reddit, and there's a Gilmore Girls subreddit, and I frequent it like every day. And there was a post that said, I think Rory and Lorelai wouldn't have liked each other as peers. And so the post kind of goes into like how it kind of describes how Lorelai seems like this very intelligent person, but it's natural, right? She doesn't put forth much effort into things because it just naturally comes to her, right? And I can link it in the Facebook group so you guys can read about it more, because it's gotten an award on there. But I think it's interesting, like what you observed, and it just made me think of that. So yeah, sorry. Anybody can go.
I think it's interesting that you talk about Rory having different levels of intellect, right? Like she is book smart and she's school smart, but I don't know if we can say that Rory is street smart, for lack of a better word.
I think she's naive in that area.
Yeah, I don't think that she is.
Very
Cheryl,
sheltered.
I think that Lorelai is street smart.
Absolutely, to the point that that she's overprotected Rory from it. I think she probably feels like she got too much street smarts at a young age, and so like with Rory, it's like the pendulum swung the other way. And Rory is pretty oblivious to a lot of the ways of the world.
Yeah, my point is just that street smarts doesn't get you into an Ivy League school.
Wendy's good one.
I don't like. To me, I would say it's a component of it. Like when they're assessing you, it's not just your grades and what you know. That they're assessing you as a whole rounded individual. And if you're the person that can just memorize and tell them the information they want, but you're not aware of the world around you, I don't think that's the kind of candidate that they want either.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I have a theory that Paris is not going to get into Harvard.
We'll write
So
that
what-
one down.
So Wendy's been flashing for a little while, and then Kathy Ann's also waiting to speak.
And then I'm going to actually have to jump after that, but I would love to stick around for that and perhaps any other quick questions that you guys might have about this before we jump into tomorrow's episode.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that during while we were watching it. And I just think about Richard knowing she was the best and brightest in her class. And then when they went to visit, or her and Rory went to visit, and she's looking at that picture like, that would have been her, I guess, sort of. And I thought, can't they make her, not that she was, stupid at the table, but I thought, can't they make her, I don't understand why she's just not a little bit book smart. Yes, definitely street smart. And yes, Harvard's looking for the whole package, but you still have to have that GPA, and you still have to have, read books and obtain some sort of academic knowledge. Maybe not enough to keep up with the, freakish family, but.
Well, I think you probably do. For like a Harvard, I think that you do need to have like pretty intense academic knowledge. While also having all of that other stuff. There's no question about it. Street smart is a huge part of it, no doubt. But
yeah,
the way that Lorelai's been presented throughout the series, and definitely in tonight's episode at the table, like I can't imagine what Richard's talking about when he talks about like her having all this potential.
Well, the three goddesses or gods, the one she asked Rory in the hall, I need some Vishnu, etc. And I thought, now that is something you would, I think, definitely, at least I learned in high school. So that seemed a little more basic than maybe some of the other questions I think she was asked. But
Like fauvism.
oh no, I knew that. I'm an art history minor. But see, that's
Oh no, I was poking fun at myself because the first time I had watched it, I hadn't gotten it, but today, because I like to watch Jeopardy, there was a clue on Jeopardy today, and I remember hearing it. So I was like, oh my God, I finally got it this time around. So I was poking fun at myself.
I love when that happens.
Kathy Ann, did you want to say something?
Yeah. I'm just like, with Richard saying that she was the brightest and the top of her class and stuff like that, there's a lot of people who can open a textbook and be textbook smart and manage to hold that knowledge in order to pass their tests and be the top of their class, but they don't necessarily retain it for like their entire life. I was always the top of my class, but if you were to ask, like, I try to help my kids with their remote schooling and I'm stumped. But like, I was the top of my class. I was a straight A student.
Yeah, maybe so. That might be true, but I guess it feels like such a diversion from like, but yeah, maybe she's always been that kind of snarky person, but also really like able to ace exams by studying really hard, and she retains the knowledge for a short period of time. All of that together made her both like a really, really well-rounded, interesting person, as well as somebody who was like, academically pretty sound. And maybe that's it. And then of course, like if she did lose all of that academic knowledge, but she retained her snarkiness, then she would probably like, kind of make fun of it a little bit later in her life. I think I could probably get behind that. Did anybody have any other thoughts before I jump off?
Well, I was just going to say, did you notice how fast they were talking at one point in this episode compared to?
Oh yeah. No, that we were talking about it early on. I was like, this is easily the fastest episode I've heard so far. And I mean, we're only 3 episodes into the season. And I'm already like, this is the fastest.
This is the prime.
This is like the absolute peak of it. And I remember when I first auditioned for Gilmore Girls, in that role, in the Manticore guy, I remember my rep, you know, kind of like talking to me about the audition beforehand, and he's like, "So do you know about Gilmore Girls, right?" And I was like, I mean, I sort of know a little bit about it. Like, what do you mean?" And he was like, the dialogue, you need to be fast, like real fast, like that, like it's not, they speak a mile a minute. And I didn't watch any of the episodes. I didn't see anything. Like I went in there totally cold, but just with this thing in the back of my head that in order to get the role, I had to speak the lines like twice as fast as you normally would. So I, you know, I auditioned for the 4th episode of the season and the 3rd episode of the season. So already they were making it clear to the representatives of the actors they were bringing into audition. They were already making them clear, like, let your clients know that they can't waste our time. We're only seeing people who can speak at that pace, at that speed. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy though. I mean, it's just like a lot of us girls can talk that fast in real life, but to like dialogue that you had to learn.
Well, I mean, I also think that like a lot of the speech patterns of speech patterns now, I think have gotten a lot faster. I don't know if I'd say anybody was speaking that fast in that year, like in 2002. Really?
If you
I mean, that was
brother,
abnormal.
he might tell you something different from when I was a kid, when I was young, because I
think that the show, and I think pop culture in general, has gotten, television and television characters have gotten faster, especially comedy.
Oh yeah.
And that has influenced that's influenced speech patterns in real life. Like people now speak faster, as a, because they're aspiring to be like the characters that they love on television.
It's like that accent way back in like the 30s, 40s, and like probably even 50s. I was watching Meet Me in St. Louis, the other day with Judy Garland, and like
you mean the old American Standard?
Well, yeah, the transatlantic type accent, because like that was kind of like the thing, and like dialect, and so things like that, like that fast talking and stuff like that, kind of had like its era, and kind of don't see like the whole transatlantic type accent anymore because it's not really needed. But fast talking, I mean, is like a timeless.
It was a very important, it was a very big part of old cinema, and clearly the Palladinos, Amy especially, is really influenced by old movies and Screwball and all of that, and in the 70s, like film really, in the 70s, like, sort of transformed as acting became like more grounded and more nuanced and more real, and characters started mumbling and started like, like the pace of their dialogue was slower, and it was just like gritty and raw, but you can sense that like this show in a lot of ways is sort of a return to that kind of storytelling from pre-70s, that sort of pre-70s new wave of the film.
Even back in the 40s, they were talking fast.
40s, 50s, 30s, it's a style. I don't know, maybe it was actually more representative of the speed at which people were speaking back then, I think we are influenced by our media, like, our favorite characters influence how we behave in life. And I definitely think that people speak faster than they did 20 years ago. And I think that that's probably media has done that. So it seems reasonable to assume that like back in like the 40s and 50s, that like that kind of dialogue on camera actually did feel more representative of how a lot of people spoke day to day. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. I just talked really fast in the 80s. That's all I can tell you, because I was able to slow down a lot. I think it's also the pace at which we live. Everything we do is quicker and.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I believe
for sure.
So, John, I think we should start a new team, Team Manticore.
Team Manticore.
I'll accept that.
No
I'll
way.
accept that.
I believe
God.
Diana was watching. I'm not sure if she still has something she wanted to say before you left, John.
I did, but I don't. Well, one thing I just wanted to mention was Lane and just how relaxed she is around Dave, which is a really new Lane that we see in the presence of a guy who kind of piques her interest, and like it's really nice that she's just kind of chatting with him about music, and it's like a real good. Yes, exactly. But there's not that like, oh my God, I touched his hair, or like, what do I do? What do I do? It's a real cool Lane that we see, which I liked.
For sure. Something that I can already tell you right now, every episode that I will be in from here on out, and this begins tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first episode where I join the cast. I will almost definitely not be speaking during my scene and just analyzing.
You're gonna be curled up in the couch.
I'm going to be analyzing every tiny thing that I am doing.
We're gonna have to have
just
Betsy
to warn
up
you.
here so that she can
Have
verify
Betsy
that
hold
you're
your
not
hand.
closing your eyes and you're actually watching.
No, I'll be watching. I'm eager to see it, and I think it's going to be fun. I'm really curious about all that, and I'm especially curious about the Dave stuff, because I really don't know how any of that plays out. I know that there were lots of scenes that they had without me and Todd, so I know there's a whole storyline that happened there, and I'm just curious how I'm going to feel about that character leaving the show, and how I'm going to feel about their relationship, and how I'm going to feel about that 2 or 3 seasons from now. And so I'm just going to be, you're going to either hear me like super quiet, or maybe you'll hear me like say, whispering something, here and there. But I'm
But
really.
don't mute yourself, because we want to hear the listeners.
Tomorrow's a night for Instagram.
All right, I'll tell you what.
so
I
that
won't
you
mute. I
can't
won't mute myself during any of my scenes. Maybe you can hear. Maybe I'll be talking to myself, like
You're like,
muttering.
oh God.
I'll be muttering to
I
myself.
can host, and I can that's the slowly plan to take over.
John, you need to make sure to be a moderator.
Yes. I'm
Wait, who?
making folks moderators.
Yeah.
Just remember that Brian is a beloved character. So while you're analyzing his every little move, we love him.
Okay,
Exactly.
good.
Good point,
Very,
Mary.
very good, very good. So tomorrow, very exciting. I think that I'm going to probably, if I can, I've got actually a pretty packed day tomorrow, so I'm hoping that I can get here early enough to actually open the room about a half hour early.
God, please not a half hour.
Yeah.
I have
but-
going on.
that
like,
idea.
That's the first thing. The second thing is like I want to be sensitive to new folks. Now I know that the folks who have been with us since the beginning, you guys have been here and have supported this, and I want you to have a sort of first dibs, I guess you could say, on parts of this. And certainly on the couch if you want it. But as I said yesterday, it's so important, I think, that we get new folks like Kendra, like Caitlin, up here, because it's just part of how we grow this community. So I would like to tomorrow just take a quick moment before I bring everybody up onto the couch. I want to take a quick moment just as a test to see if there are any new folks that would like to come up onto the couch first, and then open it up to other folks. I just want
a ton of new people tomorrow, and none of us go on the couch.
I think that's a good idea.
We have a great idea.
I just think
after the show either way, so
and you know what,
I'm joking.
and I can also Kirk, I can also say okay, that 7 new people came up here, now let's bring up some veterans. I just think that it might be fun for tomorrow's episode. And remember, you can hear me speaking, and everyone will get a chance to speak, because we're all coming up onto the couch afterwards, and it will probably.
I was joking with what I said. So
no, so that's gonna be fun. And tomorrow, some really, really big new features in the app are coming that I'm very, very excited about. We've got Wink Winkers happening tomorrow, so everyone's going to be taking photos of their
Can you
their
tell me
yeah,
what
I
a
get
wink
fries
winker
tomorrow.
is, please? Because you were saying that yesterday and I didn't know. What's a wink winker?
Fries.
Oh,
French
Wink
fries.
Winker. So a Wink Winker is Mary.
Oh,
You're gonna be
thank you for
disappointed in
asking,
yourself.
Mary,
You're
because I
gonna
did
be
not want to
disappointed,
know.
Mary.
Oh, I get it now. I get it.
Wink Winkers are fries because that's what Brian calls them. So so we're Wink Winking it tomorrow. Tater tots work too. You can
Thank
get
you.
Hickam. You can
Okay,
get Hickama
For
on
the
there.
record, it's
Ooh,
Todd who calls them that.
That's
why
what
I
I'm doing.
No,
Oh, he
It's
calls
my
them that.
rutabaga.
He calls them
yeah.
that again. Alternate reality. I don't know.
No, it
So
was in the show. Lane, he asked Lane for some wink winkers.
Anyway, we're gonna have a pretty big day tomorrow. So I'm hoping that I can start a little earlier. That we just have a little bit more time with each other. It's going to be really fun. A lot of new stuff. If you have the app and you if you don't have the app, I would say get the app. Get the app if you want to participate in some of this like sort of gamey stuff that I'm going to be bringing into Remarkist over the coming months. If you do have the app and you are signed in, something that you may or may not know is that we have in our app on the sidebar, we have a product roadmap with features that are to come, which will let you know sort of what I'm working on. But there's also, if you click, there's a button that says requests. If you click on that, you'll see that community members have already started to request features. And you can go in and read what some folks have requested and you can like it, which is important because that will help me determine whether there are things that I should prioritize or put onto our roadmap, like, just new ideas that you have. And I should also say that that's not just suggestions for the app or like for features of the app. That's also suggestions for the community on a whole, new ideas for how to do this, like new ideas for our clubhouse rooms, new ideas for, so I would encourage you, if you have the app, to make suggestions, and then also, if you can, take a look at some of the suggestions that folks have already put up there, and if there are any that you think are cool that you would like to see implemented, just give it a little favorite.
So is that the Remarkist app?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
at remarkist.com.
It's like a home screen, add to home screen bookmark, but it works like an app, and so you can still use it the same way.
Exactly, and you sign up for it like you would sign up for any app, and once you've signed up for it, then you can vote. If you haven't signed up or signed in, a few days ago it actually would have let you vote, but it wouldn't have actually registered because without an account it doesn't know what to register. But if you're signed in, then you can take a read of what some folks have suggested, things like polling, things like question asking, like a way for us to create a mechanic where questions can be asked for folks who are not going to be able to attend. Just really interesting things that I actually hadn't thought of that I think is really cool. And so that's important, ideas coming from you guys may be better than some of the ideas that I have. And so I'd love to hear them. All right, I'm out. Thank you,
Thanks
everyone,
for the
once
behind
again.
the scenes stuff.
Thanks,
Yes,
John.
yeah.
That was a great chat.
Yes, thanks, John.
Yeah, that was fun. And it was
Thank
fun
you,
to see
John.
Adam. It was fun to see Adam again after all.
I just realized I said Indian instead of Hindu. I was overdoing chores and then I felt horrified.
Oh.
Also, Adam Brody was not on Freaks and Geeks. That has been bothering me like all this time. But I was obsessed with that show for like years, so I know.
What else was he in though? Because wasn't he in something before Gilmore Girls?
He did some
Well, I
movies
don't know
and
his
some
filmography,
small roles
but
on other shows.
But he was
Okay.
in Freaks and Geeks. That was actually Matt Dupree, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not.
All right,
Thanks
everybody.
again, John.
See you soon.
Yes, thanks, John.
Good night,
Bye.
John.
Bye.
As always, thanks. Good night.
Apparently, he was in American Pie too in 2000.